Hamburgers?
I haven't died yet.
Okay.
Really?
No, some of them taste like
Pretty
fish.
sure.
It's really gross.
That's my goal, is to never have it all 4 years.
Max said that it's because their system's too small or something.
Really?
He said that their sewer system is like too small for the building or something because the city of Lucas would only let him get a certain size or something like that. I don't know. Remember he was talking about one time when it smelled like sewage out there?
Yeah.
Trying to explain why?
Did.
Yeah.
It was like septic or
I don't know. Ask Max.
Where are they? I don't know. Oh, there. I found it.
Are you filming?
No.
I'm eating.
No. Oh.
I started filming.
Maybe edit this part out.
Yeah, it's a little work. Should I
It's a little work.
Should I start another recording?
Well, maybe.
It's already been recording for a minute.
Episodes
I'll just leave it.
That's fine.
No, like half of it's already uploaded.
so awkward.
That's awesome. Okay, what were you saying? Praxiteles? Maybe. Not exactly sure. This is from the Temple of Hera. Obviously a copy because of the weirdness there with the block. Okay. Not exactly sure what his other hand was doing. We think maybe he was dangling grapes because it's Dionysus, right? And so reference to wine there. And look at poor Dionysus' head. It's so tiny. We're going to have that figured out for a while. Lysippus established a different canon of proportions from Polycletus. Not dramatic change, but at least they're starting to recognize more and more realism with their figures. Okay, scraper. What does that mean? Scraper.
He's scraping sweat.
Sweat and grease and dirt and all that stuff because remember they participated in athletic events nude. And so if you're out on the Circus Maximus and you're sweaty and you've got oil on your skin because butter is what they would use as lotion and as a ointment if you were hurt. Butter was invented. Yeah, I mean that was its first use was as an ointment. And so yeah. It sticks to everything. And so anyway, you had all of that, and so the scraper is scraping that dirt off, okay, and all that congealed, nasty sweat. Another Lysippus, this is Weary Hercules. Okay, remember he's just completed the how many? 12 not stats. What am I trying to say?
Labors.
Trials. What?
12 labors of Hercules.
Labors. Thank you. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here anyway. Okay, being a deity, he's very buff. Okay, leaning, of course, resting. He's tired, and then you can see from the back we have the apples that he won for completing the trials. What'd you call them? Trials. Labors. Keep thinking trials. Okay, and then you can see that this is a piece that's meant to be seen all the way around, right? Okay, so this wouldn't have been put in a niche. It would have been to be seen around because you're getting the point of the story from what's in his hand behind him. Gnosis' stag hunt, mosaic. Okay, kind of reminiscent of the red and black figures we've seen a little bit. You're getting some of that action. Okay, and then this is another, this is a Roman copy of a painting. So this is a mosaic, but it's a copy of a painting that was done in Greece. Okay, and this is the Battle of Issus, which we see documented over and over again in art. Okay, remember that the theaters in Greece were half circles, semicircles. Okay, this is Polycletus the Younger, going after the steps of his father, the sculptor. This time he's helping design and create the theater. And remember, this is the one that if you were standing here in the center, your voice would echo really well throughout the stadium. So even though they didn't have the aid of electronics to get your voice out and microphones and all those kinds of things, you were still able to project. This was all very mathematical. Okay, because how do the Greece? They're utilizing their brains to the greatest power that they can, right? They're very involved in philosophy. So, what was that phrase that they used?
Man is the
measure of all things, right? So the capability, the capacity of mind is being studied. Mathematics, Okay, Hellenistic is where we are going from city-states to more of a cosmopolitan area. Okay, Greece has spread some. It's taking over that Mediterranean area. It's more cohesive. Okay, Hellenistic art focused on the real. Okay, so getting images of contemporary ideas as well as deities. The Corinthian column I have down there so you guys can remember what that looks like. It's more ornate than the Ionic or the Doric, and it uses that acanthus leaf. And the Hellenistic period, at its height, was 323 to 330. Altar of Zeus at Pergamon. Okay, this is reconstructed at the museum in Berlin. So very high relief compared to what we saw with the Assyrians, right? It's actually coming out from the wall quite a bit. And then these are what kind of capital? Can y'all tell?
Ionic.
Ionic. So Corinthian doesn't replace; it's just starting to be used. Okay, it's not exclusively used. We're still using Ionic, some Doric. Epinosis, perhaps. This is the Gaelic chieftain killing himself and his wife. We also saw Dying Gaul that was part of this same series. We think they were probably connected, physically connected, and now they're broken apart because they're copies. Okay, not the original bronze. So what's the point of this story?
That it was better to die than become a prisoner.
Mm-hmm. It was better to kill yourself than become a prisoner and then be killed. Why do you think, when we talk about this, why did the Greek depict the Gauls so strong?
Because they were like a good challenge.
Yeah. Look how strong these people are, and yet we still persevere. Okay. So his wife's already dead or dying, and then he's stabbing himself, and we actually have blood coming down. I guess you're trying to get that, what, aortic valve or something? What's,
Well, you could have committed Harry.
Good. I like how you acted that out. Oh, very nice. Venus de Milo. Okay, Aphrodite. Which influenced what?
Like that one lady, Liberty leading the
people. Like,
yeah, we didn't know it.
Yeah.
I thought Liberty leading the people was like Joan of Arc too. Like that's what the story is.
Oh, okay. I can see that. This female leader. And remember, and this is similar to Liberty. We have the topless. Okay, although her gown is just slipping, like you get this kind of sensual feel, like it's about to slip off. What do we think was happening with? Why is her leg out and her arms? What was happening there?
She was leaning a shield on her, like right.
Leaning a shield as a reflection. It was polished to be like a mirrored reflection. Liberty in Delacroix's work also has her leg out, so it's a direct reference there. Sleeping Satyr or the Barberini Faun. Okay, this is similar to the work we see when we see Rococo sculpture, those small Rococo sculptures. Satyr is kind of a stretch. I mean, he does have little goat horns, but
And a tail.
wait, where's the tail?
Right behind his butt cheek.
Right here?
No, behind his butt cheek.
That is a
It
tail.
looks like a
Right.
worm.
It's not a worm.
I said it looks like. I'm trying to like
Oh.
show it right here.
Oh.
It's like
This?
that big.
Yeah.
I thought that was fabric.
No. No.
We'll say it's a tail.
It's totally a tail.
Okay, whatever. But don't satyrs typically have the lower body?
Yeah.
That's animal, so
I mean, it could be on his like tailbone, like above his tailbone. You know. That's
yeah, but his legs are
torso, you
human.
know? Oh, I don't know.
Very strange. And then Nike alighting a warship or Nike of Samothrace. It's called Nike of Samothrace because of where it's from. This and Venus de Milo are considered kind of that epitome of Hellenistic sculpture. This was on larger base. And of course, she had a head at some point.
I like it. I like
Sheer drapery. You get this sense of movement, like she's going through the wind, right? Okay, Laocoon and his son. So this is stems from the story of what?
They were like getting eaten by the serpents.
Eaten by serpents that came up out of the water because they predicted that the Trojan horse was a trick, right? And they didn't want them to know it was a trick, so the priest sent these serpents to come devour them.
Breadsticks do.
It's a horrific way to die. Okay, the Etruscans. This is chapter 9. Okay, so the Etruscans are the early what? Romans. They're the early Romans. We're not exactly sure. We know that the Latin language came from the Etruscans or has that root there. They kind of set up city-states similar to the Greek. They also had some more developed kind of land or city ideas. So they had the paved streets, the sewers, public buildings. Okay, rock-cut tombs were significant to the Etruscan people, which is kind of what catacombs ended up forming out of, that idea of rock-cut tombs. Some are painted, some are carved. We'll see the Tomb of Relief. Remember that was carved. Coming from the Romans got from them artistic styles, religious practices, water and drainage systems, the toga, and the basic form of house and temple. Okay, so the toga actually started with the Etruscans. This is fibula with orientalizing lion. Remember, this is a large piece, okay, a foot long. And this is done out of what material? Gold. It says it. Gold. And what technique was used? Repoussé. Hammering. Okay, hammering. And where did a fibula go?
On the toga.
Right here, holding the toga, okay, on the shoulder. So this would have been a huge piece. So a ceremonial piece, not an everyday wear, right? I hope. Okay, a typical 6th century Etruscan temple. It was described by Vitruvius, so that's where we kind of get the layout, what we think it looks like. This is a model.
Were they the wooden ones? Or was that Yes.
And that's why they're no longer around. You can see influence from the Greek, right? With their simple plan that was not the basilica, okay, but that was the more compact. This is we think it's Apollo. This would have been a temple sculpture, roof sculptures that would have gone up here at the top. What is this made out of?
Painted terracotta.
Terracotta. What is terracotta?
It's clay.
It's clay. It's clay. What did she say? Stone?
She was like stone, clay.
So it's hollow, right? Okay, so to build something like that out of clay, if you've worked with clay, oh my goodness. It's as tall as I am. Okay, this is a huge feat of craftsmanship and being able to use all those techniques to create something three-dimensional and large like that out of clay.
Nothing compared to the terracotta army, though.
This is true.
Do you fire them? Like, do you have to fire terracotta?
This would be like in a ground dug kiln. Yeah. Yeah. And this was painted, so there's traces of paint on it, so they can see that they were painting like the archaic Greek. And if you look at the face, you see a little bit of a smile. He looks Spanish to me. I think it's the mustache appearing. Sarcophagi were very common burial chambers or coffins, I guess, for the Etruscan people, and then these were in turn put into rock-cut tombs if you had the money, right? They also had this series of tholos that they would put people in as well. Most of them rock-cut, though. Reclining couple. Okay, there are so many different variations of this, but you can see some we still have that are painted, were in a different kind of environment where that paint was able to remain. Some we have the paint not on. But even though this is two different sarcophagi, look at how similar they are. Okay, the male's different a little bit. The female one face, the one at the back's face is wider. What were they holding? Probably.
Holding a scroll or something?
She could have been holding a scroll. He's holding a glass. Okay, so probably would have had a glass in his hand. A drink. Okay, she might have been holding a cup. Think of it like a votive kind of offering. Okay, you could have put things in it when you visited. Think about how a lot of modern cemeteries have a vase and you could put flowers in it or mementos. That kind of idea. Remember how their bodies are not super realistic. It's like they don't really have a pelvis. Their spine is very limber and they're just kind of melting down. Okay, so they start off more realistic and then they kind of melt. The Etruscans are the ones that have large hands in a lot of their pieces, a lot of their paintings, frescoes, large hands. Think of this also as kind of a precursor to the odalisque paintings we've been seeing. Okay, the reclining female. This is the Tomb of the Reliefs. This is the one where we had the carvings onto the wall as if something would actually be placed there. So these aren't actual three-dimensional objects. They're carved in. Hey, you come in. How are you? Good. Art history. Yeah. Art history study session. You're here to grade? Good times. What does this tell us about the Etruscan culture?
But they didn't have stuff, so they're like pretending.
Wait, what?
They didn't have stuff, so they're like pretending.
Well, or they knew this stuff would be taken, potentially, but they still wanted a depiction of what a room or a home might look like. Okay, so we kind of get the idea of what objects they had. Okay, ropes and what their weaponry, what their tools look like, what the kinds of things they worked with. Okay, so we can kind of get a picture of what one of their homes might have looked like, even though this is a burial chamber.
Could they not? Okay, their little Ionic columns, not those, but the ones in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Is it slanted like the roof, so they're slanted like that?
I think.
Or did they not make it straight?
I think it's slanted on purpose. I think, because of how the roof is, almost like a tholos. Okay, they would have had some sort of angle. The carving, so I think it's on purpose because these tend to be a little bit straighter. So I think this is exaggerated.
Well, like the one on the very left side is straight. So.
This one, in perspective, yeah. Tomb of the Leopards. So we have the rock cut tombs for the Etruscans. We also have painted frescoes in the tombs, and their figures have the large hands. Look at this. It's like, wow. Women versus men. We can tell who's who. Just like before, we have the darker skin for the males. I love these tongues. Feels very Egyptian. The poses feel rigid. Capitoline wolf, I know everyone loves. Probably a Renaissance piece, okay? And we can tell that how.
Because the babies are fine.
The babies are fine.
Well, they're not
Proportionally.
proportional, not fine.
Yes. Proportionally, the babies are the right size. Also, the research that's been done says that the casting method was not of this period. It was more of the Renaissance period. Now, that being said, it is still considered an Etruscan piece. So you would still, if ever asked this question, you would still say Etruscan, which the Etruscans died out when Rome took over. So we know it's, earlier. More than likely what happened, because they do have writers that have said there was a sculpture like this that have been described during this period. So it was probably damaged and it was remade in a similar style. But at this point, they knew how to do the figures, and so they did them proportionally or correct. Okay, this is a cista. Remember? Cista. And this is done out of metal, so this is a very expensive piece. The Focorni cista. And this Focorni was the family name. Okay, so this was used to hold what?
Toiletries.
Toiletries. Good. Toiletries. Do what?
Didn't you say female toiletries? Maybe I'm making this up. I'm probably making this up.
Well, no, I mean it probably would have been used by a female. Yes. And then this piece was done with the etching on the metal. Okay, so this is a sheet metal and it's been etched into. Or a wakui, right? Okay, chapter 10, we've made it to Rome. Took us a while, but we did it. Alright, the different types of vault. Remember, these are made possible because of concrete. Sorry, I'm hungry. Because of concrete. So, barrel vault, groin vault is where two barrels intersect. Fenestrated sequence of groin vault. Fenestration means what?
Windows.
Windows.
Never mind.
What did you say?
She goes, they. And then a hemispherical, so a dome that's a sphere inside, and then it has the oculus at the top. Okay, which is what structure is like that?
Pantheon.
Pantheon. Not the Parthenon. This is the Temple of Fortunus. You can tell that this is influenced by what two civilizations?
Greek and
Greek and Etruscan. Good. What kind of column is that? What style? Ionic.
Ionic.
Is it Etruscan because, like, even influenced at all by Etruscan just because there's only one circle?
There's not staircases on the side.
One staircase, but these are engaged, so it doesn't have the space that we saw typically, although some Greeks didn't have the peristyle where it was just all the way around, but like the Parthenon did. Verism, what's verism?
Realism.
Realism. Wrinkles, warts and all, right? Warts and all, true. So this is head of an old man. And it's exactly what it sounds like. The head of an old man.
It's supposed to just be a head. It's not cut off.
It probably had a bust part. Yeah. Because you can tell that there's statements. Yeah. So it probably had a bust. But receding hairline, wrinkles, sags, all of those things that the Greeks would probably not have emphasized, at least, I mean, even in the Hellenistic period, not to that extreme. And then old man with portrait bust of his ancestor. So this is where we have the imagines, spelled imagines. The imagines were the wax faces that you would have at funeral processions. So if somebody died, let's say a son died, the father might have had a face that was made after him, and then the grandfather, they might still have his face. So they would have that procession, that funeral procession. They would march with the imagines so that everyone could see what the man's ancestors looked like. Okay, and you would keep those maybe on your fireplace or on a shelf in your home. That would be a possession you would have. Busts were the same way. They were a little bit more expensive, right, to have a carving made. But this man has generations shown here, and so he's showing us his ancestry, which he's proud of. Okay, and he's showing us that instead of a group of portraits, we have just the bust. And again, verism, because his wrinkles, we can kind of see that he's an older man. Okay, so the Greeks had the semicircle or half theater, and so we start to see in Italy the amphitheater that's in a total circle. Okay, well, not maybe a perfect circle, but in the round. It's all the way around, right? Okay, so this is from Pompeii. It allowed more people, okay, to be there, and a wall all the way around so you could control. Roman house of the late Republic and early Empire. This is the house that's typically found at Pompeii. Remember the different parts of this? Ish. The fauces, remember that meant jaws. And so that opening, okay, like think about the way jaws open. Okay. Atrium was typically open at the top. The impluvium was where the rain would collect. Okay. Is going to be a small room, to either a bedroom or an office. Now, some people wouldn't be able to afford this whole space, right? So what would they do?
Rent out.
They'd rent a room, or they would have maybe this would be half their business and half their home. Okay, so they would live in part and then they would work in part. Peristyle is the single row of columns here. I think number 7 is dining area. Triclinium. Wall painting. Remember there are 4 styles. The first style you describe how?
Isn't it like
It's
That's staccato.
it's trying to be like marble.
Yeah.
You're so descriptive there. Other kinds of stone? Yes.
Stucco? Is that the?
It's like
Did I make up that word?
Stucco?
Yeah,
no,
maybe.
it's pseudo.
Pseudo?
It's like pseudo
I still
stone.
wasn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm working on it.
It's a faux finish. So they're trying to replicate all these different stones, even though it's just this stucco wall. Maybe that's what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Yes. But they're replicating.
Right.
You said stucco, so I didn't know if you were student council. So they're trying to replicate all these expensive stones that have been imported, but it's false.
The whole time.
Okay, second style is what? How would you describe it? Yes, it's a fresco. Subject, I mean. Yeah? We have objects. What? Theatrical kind of would tell stories. Okay? Some of them wanted it to look like you were looking out the window, but you weren't really. Okay? So they had kind of false windows painted and then things going on, environments going on inside. The third style was very architectural. It emphasized these architectural details, more simple in the space it filled, very linear, but it showed architectural reference. And then the fourth style was kind of a mismatch of all the styles, mostly of second and third. So you had architectural details, but then you also had scenes going on. This is from the House of Nero. Okay, so expensive.
Which one was the one where it was like an illusion of where it extends beyond?
Second.
That's like.
Well, second and fourth, but second was the first one to have an illusion, like it looks like you're in a pasture, but you're not.
Oh, okay.
Portrait of husband and wife, and we know they're husband and wife how?
the things they're holding.
Mm-hmm. The things they're holding, what's a typical symbol for spouses?
I don't know that.
Is that a scroll?
Yes, a scroll and a pen.
That's where I got the
Just-
scroll from. So
Oh, okay. So it's showing us that they're married. And this is some of the first portrait, if not the first portrait painting we're seeing, right? And it's preserved because it's at Pompeii. It was covered in ash. Our Pacus, we have about beat that to death, I think.
I hope it's on me.
Yeah,
I know,
right.
I know so much about it.
Do what?
Ah.
But, oh, no, it was on last year.
Oh,
However,
that was like
they may ask you to
I told you,
reference.
this class is
Like structures or
made
something?
for last year. Yeah.
Yeah, they might ask you to reference a structure, and this would be one you could reference, especially if it says something about propaganda or social statement. They might even ask you to reference a structure that was made for a religious purpose. Remember, in this had an altar. You could use this as something that made use of reliefs, continuous narration, contemporary people. There's all different ways you could utilize this, even if it's not described our purpose.
I forgot what it was used for, so I said it's used for a temple or a like mortuary tomb, or I just listed all the things.
It's used for one of the following 17.
Yeah.
Well, it was an altar, so
Okay,
And it
so
celebrated the feast that he.
the plenty that he, and it also encouraged childbirth. I mean, there's so many things about it that you could probably find something somehow to reference it. And then Augustus is Prima Forta. Again, this is the one where Cupid's riding a dolphin. Okay, referencing his divine lineage, and then he's wearing the cuirass, the chest plate, this war plate, and that's representing the fact that he's a military leader.
But are his robes like scholarly robes? Because that's what I get.
Is it? Aren't they the judges' robes?
They're yes. Well, they're civil. They're to represent civil.
I think that's supposed
What was the other choices?
It was
Those
an
are
essay.
writing.
Oh, it's an essay. Oh, okay. I was like, what other choices? Religion? Like,
Oh, when did we get those scores back?
we talked about that. Well, they gave me the test back, but they're ungraded.
Oh.
So I'm meeting her on Thursday to finish grading the essays because they didn't finish all. Yours were all graded, but they were graded by one person, and they want them to be graded by two people.
Read mine.
I'm not because I'm gonna read Plano East. Plano East is gonna read Richardson, and Richardson's gonna read y'all's.
Okay.
Good thing I don't know.
And so they might start laughing, and I'd be like, "Whose are you reading?" No, I'm just but she led me to believe that she'd be giving me the scores from the multiple choice part then. So I have, and a lot of y'all circled more than one answer, and I don't know which one you picked because on your answer sheet, I'm sure you just bubbled one, but you like made notes, and so I don't know which one you actually picked because I don't have the answer sheet. I just have the question sheet. So, and then some of y'all didn't even pick one on there, so I don't even know. Yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't be able to tell even if I had the key. Most of you guys probably don't remember exactly which one you picked, so it's kind of pointless that I have them, but I have them. The Pont du Gard is what kind of structure? Aqueduct, and it was to get water.
It was the one that was designed by using a computer.
And yeah, like an old PC. Concrete made all of these things possible, right? This is the significant development of the Romans. Concrete, and it allowed these arches that we've talked about. Remember that the Colosseum was also called the
Amphitheater.
Flavian Amphitheater. And so here's the view from above, and you can obviously it had a wooden floor, so it would have been a little bit different. You wouldn't have seen the bowels of it like that. And then from the side, it was funny as I was talking to one of the readers for the AP exam. He said, "Did you realize that some students? I guess the Flavian Amphitheater wasn't a free response question, but a lot of people referenced it in one of the free response. And he said, a lot of students called it the Flavian Amphitheater instead of the Colosseum. They knew that word. I was like, cool.
My favorite.
The Flavian woman. This was a popular hairstyle. How could it not be? And remember that slaves were trained in this hairstyle, and you would have a particular slave if you were well off. You'd have a particular slave that would do your hair like this. This was a skill. You could advertise. I know how to do the Flavian hairstyle. Marble. This would have been painted, probably. 2 foot high. So this is a bust, right? It doesn't have the rest of the body. It was meant to be like this. Arch of Titus. And remember, one of the significant panels from the Arch of Titus was the spoils of Jerusalem relief. Okay, and you can hopefully tell that by the menorah. Standards being carried, like the standard of Ur that we saw. Standard of Ur wasn't carried here. I'm just saying, same concept. Just want to get that out there so someone's not like, standard of Ur was an age of Ur. Arch of Titus, and we'll be seeing, of course, other arches. Column of Trajan was at the Forum of Trajan. Remember, over 2,500 figures represented, right? And how is it laid out that's different from what we've seen before?
It's spiral.
Spiral. So instead of it being horizontal bands, the band's actually all connected, and it's spiraling at the top. Now, what do we know about this figure?
He was put there later.
He was put there later. Okay. St. Peter was put there later to be a holy figure. Okay. Significant because it's over Trajan, right? So if we have Trajan's column and we have religion on top. This little door, so you can see, there's stairway inside. Okay, and this is telling the story of Rome, essentially. Yes.
Can you stand on that top thing then?
Not
like the public necessarily, but
I suppose. I mean, I don't know why they'd have a stairway if you couldn't get out at the top.
That's awesome.
it's so exciting. now I'm excited.
Must go. Peter, the first Pope, Rome's patron. The Arch of Trajan. Most of these arches were triumphal, right? So it was for their return from something or to commemorate a win in battle. He's the only spoken about the fact that a sphere would fit inside. The oculus at the top. And then what do we call these? Copper. Whoa!
Oh.
Lots of coppers. Equestrian statues, we're going to start seeing. This one's Marcus Aurelius. And what's significant about the proportions?
That he's over his animal.
Yeah, he's bigger than his animals. He's over his animal. This is in bronze, which is kind of unusual because the Romans usually worked in what? Marble.
Is it a big horse or a big person?
It's a big person.
Well, is it a
You mean
normal
is it a
sized
small
horse or is it
horse?
just a?
No, it's just
Yeah,
symbolic.
yeah. The horse could be just really
Maybe
small.
both. Maybe the horse is a little bit small, the person's a little bit big.
Maybe they're all riding ponies. Like, I mean, you always say, like, the proportions are off. Maybe they're all just ponies, though. I mean,
Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe
Who
horses were
knows?
smaller back
Yeah,
then.
it's true.
Who knows?
People were smaller.
Yeah.
Sheep has tails. Anything's possible. The Coptic period was this Christian period that happened at Mount Sinai in Egypt. So we have Christian focus, but we're in Egypt. Okay, so a little bit strange. So it's kind of this combining of priest with, but he has but he's mummified, and he has these mummy portraits. And these mummy portraits were wood panels, and these wood panels were just wrapped and wrapped and wrapped with the mummy, and so you could see, like, the mummy's all wrapped up, and then you can see parts of this are uncovered, so you can actually see it on the mummy. So it's kind of creepy. I mean, think about if you walked to a cemetery and you look down, and there's where the person's buried, but you can see like a painting of their face looking up at you. Strange, right? A little bit different idea. This looks very much like what piece that we just looked at. The portrait from Pompeii, right? If you look at the eyes, the long nose, those eyebrows, very similar. Okay, very similar in style. So we can pretty much believe that's kind of what they look like, right?